Now recording. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever the case may be for you. We want to welcome you and say thank you all at the same time for joining us for this IKoK, International Coalition of Krones Chat. Let me introduce myself. I am Krone Essence Ka, founder and one of the Krones of the IKoK. I'm very honored that you're here with us for this chat and this conversation. That's why we call them a chat, because we're just sharing knowledge, information, wisdom, and maybe a funny or two every once in a while. So right now, I'd like to go ahead and ask the other two Krones to say hello and introduce themselves. Kobaha, how about you?
Good evening, everyone. I am Kobaha. I live in Northern Arizona. I'm an intuitive, spiritual facilitator, and crystal therapist. Thank you for joining us. So much to talk about again tonight, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. Over to you, Oriane.
Hi, I'm at Krone Ariane. I live in Far North Queensland, and some people have wondered where that is. So if you look at a map of Australia, it's the pointy bit on the top right of Australia. It's currently in the mid-90s with humidity about 95, so it's a bit at the moment. And we still have a few more weeks before summer. I'm a qualified holistic counsellor and meditation therapist, and my main focus at the moment is working within the community, mainly with historical stuff and with the artists who live here. I'm really looking forward to today's chats. We're going to be talking about some things that are close to my heart. I hope you enjoy what we have to say. Thank you, Essence.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, ladies. Okay. Before we get started, this chat is going to be a little bit different than our normal format, in that we really aren't, normally we're like really prepared. You know, a lot of stuff's like, okay, there's all this information and all this information and all this information. Not that there's not information, but we're going to let this one just flow naturally. We're going to see what comes up. We're going to see what needs to be shared in this moment. And that information will be decided by, is the way I'm going to say it, those in attendance live and in what we call no time, no space. All right. Now, before we get started, I want to first remind everyone that we have a Facebook group going on right now called 106 Days to Release Fear. If you're not already a member of that, we invite you to join us in that. And what we are doing is we are using mudras, mantras, malas, meditation, mindfulness, okay, to focus on being of assistance, energetically being of assistance to help kind of loosen and release some of this fear that the planet, energy of fear that the planet is currently gripped within. There is a short video on this YouTube channel that you can find describing what this work is and how it works. It's very easy. We set it to where it can be done any time of the day for the individual, whatever works for you. Okay, so we would really like to invite you to join us on that if you're interested. We do have some other interesting and exciting news that's coming up. Ariane will be sharing about that later. So before we go any further, I want to go ahead and start this chat like we do every other chat by us all just coming together in the moment to create a consciously and intentionally create an energetic space, sacred space to work within for this evening. This allows us to connect and for knowledge, information, and wisdom to flow more easily and move. We do this by simply taking a few deep breaths and bringing ourselves to center, and moving into a meditative state. And I'm going to share some Metatronic numerology, I am keyword phrases for those of you who may not be familiar. I'm a master Metatronic numerologist. So I'm all about the numbers and the frequencies and all of that. So we use that. So if everyone would just take a couple of deep breaths and bring themselves to center. Release the stresses of the day. Let go of all the worries, concerns. Don't worry. Never fear. They'll be there to pick back up when we finish. The first frequency I am keyword phrase I would like to share is what we call the heart of the IKoK. This is the 2266 dual frequency. It says, I am the master of divine balance. Through the remembrance of the singing of the sacred cosmic song of self, I ignite creation of new realities. I am that which rebalances and heals. The next frequency, I am keyword phrase, is that of the 2277 dual frequency. We call this the four cornerstones of the work of the IKoK. I am the form of the sacred structure of collective reality known through the awakened divine rational mind. I build reality upon the foundation whose cornerstones are honor, integrity, responsibility, and expansion of sacred perspective. I am the master builder of collective galactic realities. I'd like to take this time and let it be said that I, Krone Essence Ka, we, the Krones of the IKoK, hold no answers that can be considered 100%. Nothing finalized. What we do hold are perspectives and possibilities. What we share, the information we share, the teachings we share, once shared, become potentials. Okay, so now we'll begin. All right. Like I said, we're going to just let this chat be very free flowing. We do have a focus, though, to begin with, and that is the focus of melding the spiritual into the physical. Okay. So what do we mean by that? And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about these different ways and perspectives that we see and understand, we've experienced, we're learning, all of these things together about how we can more concretely, would be the word I would use in this moment, meld, okay, the spiritual aspects of our reality and ourself with the physical aspects of our reality and our life, our everyday life. Okay. I'm hearing melding the profound with the mundane in a way that shows us and leads us into a life more expanded. Okay. Because, and everybody get ready. And why? Because you cannot separate the physical from the spiritual. There is absolutely no way. Okay. This is an illusion or a delusion, that we have learned, we've been taught, that has been, I'm just want to let the information flow as it wants to here, that we've been taught, that we've been shown, that we've been told that the collective has been falsely shown that they're separate and that you need to keep them separate. You know, there's this sort of subconscious belief, I think, a lot of the time for a lot of people, that, oh, that's a sacred thing, we need to keep that over here. It's kind of like, here's the analogy I'm seeing and hearing. It's kind of like, oh, that's the good china, you can only get that down for special occasions. That's not true. That's just simply not true. You know, there's a lot, you know, as we hear, oh, use the good china every day, all of these, you know, things, but that's, you know, truly a good way of looking at it. Then that's what we do. It's like, oh, this is a, you know, in this collective right now, in the religious community, and even in the spiritual community. And I think everyone here really knows what I'm talking about there when I use those two terms, religious as opposed to spiritual. We may see if there's something we want to talk about there as this flows. But we have just, that's what I'm saying, we have just been taught through cultural experience, all right, from day one, from birth, really, that they're separate things. And it's simply not true. This separation of this is one, it's false. And because of this false separation, and it has created division, it's what's dividing us and is really what has brought the world to where it's at now. We have lost our connection to spirit. We have what is that word I'm looking for here? Oh, hang on, having a senior moment. See all those gray hairs sparkling? We have okay, it's not coming, so I'm just going to choose another word. We have a disharmonious is the word that's going to come to mind. Disharmonious relationship with ourselves, with our spirit, okay, with spirit, with God, with source, with universe, with consciousness, whatever you want to call it. You know, you can use any label that you're comfortable with. The point is, we have lost as a collective, as a whole, our deep connection to spirit. You know, we've been made to think so many different things depending on, but, you know, overall, in the general sense, we've been made to think, oh, that's special, it stays over there. And then this over here is just regular everyday life. So there's no need to worry about bringing any of that special into it. We just set this over here. And really that's what's caused our problem. It's really what has caused the problem and brought the collective. Yes, Ariane, you got something to say? Pop right up in there.
Yeah, I've heard a couple of times this week people who who talk about being on the spiritual path, who consider themselves even spiritual teachers, just say to me that they are so tired of being spiritual because they don't see it directly into everything they do in their everyday life. They see it as that good china. I have to put on this mask of being spiritual and stand there being oh so good. And then I can go home and take my mask off, like taking my bra off and just sit and relax and be human. And I've had that a couple of times this last week. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah, that's very true. And that's part of that cultural conditioning that I'm talking about. That's that cultural conditioning that is causing these problems. I know I myself, in this past, starting on this new, I'm going to call it new, it's really expanded part of my journey. And I've been on this journey in this lifetime for 45 years, from 16 to 61. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. That's really just kind of sharing some of my personal experience. But we get into these places like this, and I'm hearing the term spiritual peer pressure. All right. We're seeing a lot of that in this quote unquote new age spiritual belief system, consciousness expansion, all of these terms that we use. And there is this spiritual peer pressure to appear as special, as perfect, as spiritual, just like Ariane was just talking about, and not human. And it is time to be true, honest, fully. Okay. Kabaha?
That's okay. I was going to reply to Carly, but absolutely agree with you. In some sense, it's not a criticism, but
No.
we all
No.
have different approaches to spirituality. And I know personally, this is not my approach to be, it's not a criticism again, flamboyant in the sense I'm a goddess, for example. You know, some people just want to show it that way. There is a certain mold. I can hear the word mold. Some people feel like forced to be put in a mold. And the only advice I would have to these people is, and that's my experience, going through my spiritual journey, nearly 10 years now, the more you learn about yourself, the more you're going to become your authentic self. You'll know what resonates with you. Don't try to copy for the sake of it. Be comfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It from what I was thinking about, what came to mind as you were talking about that, for me, just from my personal journey years ago, very many years ago, when I started on this journey, it was that spiritual peer pressure. All right. And there was, back in those days, it was the new thing. The new thing was, oh, I'm a healer. Oh, I do energy work. I'm a healer. Well, that's all cool. And so for me, and young and starting out on that path, and the studies and journeys and everything, is because as empaths, as star seeds, as empaths, as light workers, we have this innate desire. It's actually a motivating force. It's an energy within ourselves that we actually is a motivator. It's a propulsion force. And that is, we want to help. We want to make the world a better place. It is our greatest desire. I mean, I guarantee you, everyone here listening right here and now, and those who listen in no time, no space, okay, that'll participate, everyone here, if you know, okay, what is your greatest desire? What would you do? If you could, it's like, okay, I would just make the world perfect for everyone. That's what an empath wants. That's what we want. And we would literally give everything of ourselves to make that happen, and gladly do it. So in that peer pressure of that, back in those days, I won't get off too much in this. There was this is about being your authentic self. This is about being true to who you are. So one of the first things, so here we go. One of the first ways of melding the spiritual into the physical is being true to yourself. I want to say that because I'm hearing we use the term a lot, and hear it and use it both. Be your authentic self. And there's nothing wrong with that term. I mean, there's not, but let's kind of like shift it just a little bit, because what has happened in this belief system that we're all a part of, okay, the terminology, the other two Krones and I have been talking about this quite a bit, actually, in the last couple of weeks. The terminology has become to be just overused, used to death, to the point where when we hear certain terms, it no longer, we know what it means, but it no longer resonates. It's like it's dead and dull. There's no life energy in it. And it's just overused. It's become cliche. So instead of, with that stated, understanding what I'm trying to say there, the authentic self, that's kind of one of those terms that's starting to become really cliche. Even though there's nothing wrong with it, and we do understand, let's give everything kind of a facelift, if you will. Be true to yourself. Be true to you. If you're true to you, and that's harder to do than we think. That's harder to do than we think. I myself, just where I'm at on my journey with taking on these, what I'm taking on now, the new studies and things like that I'm adding to what I already do. I have come to realize in this past week that there's a portion of me. Okay. And that's just it. Even those of us who think we have been true to ourselves, our authentic self, I bet you money, if you look deep enough, if you really look hard enough within, you're going to find one little spot somewhere that's like, yeah, I remember her. I remember. I know I did this past week. And it's not that I did anything wrong. Okay. It's been my journey, but it's simply time to be even more who you are, true to yourself. That gets difficult because we're very complicated. Humans are complicated. Okay. We're very complicated. This is a complicated journey here. Or we make it one. Let's put it that way. But in a lot of ways, it's kind of our job. This whole existence here really isn't that hard. This is what I remember talking to the Krones about this past week. It's really not that hard. We know, okay, deep within, in those still quiet moments when we go deep within, we know without doubt it's this right there. Feel that? That's it. But we complicate it because we're supposed to for the experience. Kabaha, go ahead.
Yes, what sprang to mind? Yeah, being human can be messy as well. Can be messy as well. But what an amazing experience we've got to be on this planet and become our true self as well. It's part of that journey, embracing as well our life purpose and soul purpose. I know for a fact personally, it took me years, seriously, to be what I call totally out of the spiritual closet, because it's natural. You are human. There is the social conditioning happening. And yes, you've got the little voice inside of you reminding you, silly girl, what you want to be out there? You are worried to be judged. And that's the key here, being judged. That was for me the thing. Oh, I'm going to be judged automatically. But then suddenly I realized the more I'm out there, the more I'm going to attract people who can resonate to the knowledge, wisdom, information I'm going to share. So I'm less and less worried now. But at the beginning, it was hard. Yeah. Because of the social conditioning.
Right. Yeah. What I was hearing there's kind of like, I see that it's like kind of like two phases of that. Okay. There's the phase of when, and we can all remember, I'm sure, when we first, came into this belief system, and depending when you came into it, I mean, you go back 45 years ago, like when I started, and it's like, you had to be careful. You literally had to be careful what you said and who you said it to. Okay. Because it could cause you, well, you could get locked up in the nut house or something, and there's not that so much now, but the phase one, but there's still social conditioning and peer pressure, okay? Because it's like, well, my job, I do this, this is my living, this is how I support myself. And we're by no stretch of the imagination, I want that clearly stated and understood. We're by no stretch of the imagination saying that we think that people should do that. We understand that, okay? If that's where you're at, then you need to do it, but you need to be clear with you. Okay, that's what you need to be clear with. It's with yourself. If you have to like not let like where you work or family or certain things know, as an example of myself, early days, I was born and raised Pentecostal Assemblies of God. My parents were very devout Pentecostal Christians, and my respect for them, even though I started this journey when I was 16, my respect for them said, you don't tell them. I did not tell them. They never knew. They never knew my belief system. Okay. Before they died, but it wasn't because of anything other than my respect for them, because I knew it would scare them. That would literally scare them, that they were, that I was going to hell in their belief system. It would be, well, why? In my belief system, why would I do that? Why would I share information with someone, especially someone that I cared for and loved, okay, that I knew would bother them? I remember, like I said, we're just going to let stuff free flowing. So, we're just having a conversation here. My mother, I was in my mid-20s, and one day she pulled me aside, and Sonny, she called me Sonny. All right. She said, I'm worried about you. I'm worried about your soul, about you going to hell. And in that moment, I had to make a decision. So I told her, I said, Mother, I said, let me tell you. I said, I understand. Okay. And like I said, I was probably 20, somewhere between 22 and 25 when this happened. And I said, I promise you, I'm not going to hell. I said, I'm a good person. I said, and yes, I do not believe the same way that you believe, but I am not a religious person, but I promise you, I am one of the most spiritual people walking this planet. I said, you have done your job. You have, because it was that, okay? It was that upbringing that I had in that church. Now, I didn't recognize that for some time later, but it was that taught me, that showed me. It was a part of my journey. And this brings us around to, okay, what I'm hearing right now. You want to meld the spiritual into the physical? Don't be judgmental. Don't judge another's journey. We have to allow, we have to accept, we have to be respectful, we have to be honorable. You want to meld the spiritual into the physical? Stand in integrity. Harm none. Harm none. Kabaha. I'm going to, I know you've got some stuff to talk about. I'm going to ask you to go ahead. If y'all have anything you want to add on what
Actually, it's a nice transition to the information I wanted to share about the importance of being balanced at the moment, centered, and exactly what Essence said about being tolerant and respectful of our differences of opinions, differences in general, actually. And let's face it, if we look at the collective at the moment, we've been experiencing for a while different type of energies of fear, anger, confusion, frustration, and uncertainty. But before I go further, and I'll talk a bit more covering the basic of the root chakra and how we can help having our root chakra balance. I want to go back to the link between fear, anger, and denial, because they're interconnected, actually. Anger is the second reaction to fear. This is a form of fear. It's very reactive. Denial is also a passive-aggressive form of anger. It's what we call sticking our head into the sand or in the sand. So if you look at those three and you're looking at the collective, we're having a mix here of different energy of fear, anger, and denial at the moment. They're quite heavy energies. And I would describe it, we are in a moment of a collective root chakra imbalance. And I'm going to explain why. It feels at the moment very unstable and very uncertain. And with the division going on at the moment, and partly because we don't accept our differences, we blaming others, we accusing others as well, we creating as a collective more separation, more anxiety, and more fear, but wait for it, more fear of the other. That's what's happening. We are different, so we are fearful. We've got fear of the other. And if you are an empath, if you are someone who's very sensitive, at the moment it's hard to feel rooted and grounded. And that's why I felt tonight I had to talk about it. So, first of all, I'm going to share some basic information regarding the root chakra and giving you an idea what happens if it's unbalanced, and as well talk to you about how can we manage during these unprecedented times to have it balanced. So first of all, the root chakra is called the base chakra as well, is at the base of our spine. It stimulates activity, physical activity, exercise, assist in keeping us grounded and present, which is very important at the moment, and influences our immune system. And it's also about security in the physical world, and that's very important. This chakra manages the body's survival needs, including food, shelter, and protection. So it's all about the basics, how to live the basics in our life. So food on our plate, a roof over our head, enough money to live, okay? Now, when the root chakra is blocked, energy cannot freely, obviously, flow. We get in a place of fear, which can lead to the inability to trust ourselves and the others. As well, we may not understand or know how to nourish ourselves, but it's on the different levels in the body, mind, and spirit. It can lead us to have inappropriate boundaries and codependency, low self-esteem, anxiety, and depression. It can also create low back pain, so that's more on the physical, sciatica, obesity, chronic pain, the feet, the legs, prostate problems, constipation, and can lead to addictions to food, alcohol, and sex. When the root chakra is blocked and out of balance, that's going to impact all of the other chakras, because we need to understand the root chakra is the first chakra in the 7 main chakra systems. And it is our foundation and is responsible for the whole of who we are. So that's why it's so important to have a chakra balance. So how do we balance it? That's a good point. 2 things here. First of all, grounding. And you add to that self-care practices. So what is grounding? Well, grounding is basically balancing out energies, physical energies, spiritual energies, by connecting ourselves with the earth. When we are grounded, we'll feel right here in the physical, in the present moment. We also feel clear, focused, strong, and centered. If we are, on the other hand, ungrounded, we may feel spacey, fearful, anxious. We may also feel physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually drained. We may also have problems sleeping. You wake up in the morning, you don't feel refreshed, and for days, weeks, you feel tired, exhausted. Well, the good news is there are ways, practical ways, easy practical ways to be grounded. And I'm going to share with you a few examples among many others, okay? The first one is my favorite one. Moving, exercising. Every day I do daily walks. This is my routine in one way of grounding. But obviously, walking every day is going to have as well an impact on my physical, emotional, mental, even spiritual. But you can run, you can bike, you can hike, for example. And I thought about it this morning, like Essence, doing yoga, Tai Chi is another way while you're moving where you can ground your energy. Now, the second one, it's a well-known technique. It's about earthing your bare feet. So get your bare feet in the soil, the sand, the grass, of course, if weather permits, just a few minutes every day. That could be your type of grounding exercise. As a crystal therapist, I know for a fact that some crystals can help us as well to be grounded. And I've got a few favorite crystals for grounding. For example, I've got a few examples there. Got red jasper, smoky quartz, bloodstone, carnelian. And finally, as another example, but an important one, looking at our diet, we can introduce nourishing, grounding type of food. For example, root vegetables and protein, any type of protein, doesn't have to be animal, could be vegetable as well. That's going to help you as well to ground your energy. But as general, giving you an idea, by being grounded, by being balanced and centered, and working on your root chakra, we live more from a place of love rather than fear. That's an important point here. That's it, Essence. Just a small recap.
Yeah, no, thank you. Because these things are, and this is what we're gonna look here in just a few minutes, really at the physical aspect of this, okay? Because you want to meld, in melding the spiritual into the physical. All right, it's a two-way street. You have to give focus, equal focus. All right. Okay, I'm listening. Hang on, give me just a second. There are actually 4 aspects, but we're just going to talk about 2 right now. We're going to talk about them in this way. They incorporate all 4. We have, like we said, the spiritual and the physical. All right. We see them as 2 separate things. The vast majority of the time, the vast majority of this collective, we've been, as a collective, as a global culture, unless you were raised in one of the more indigenous aboriginal cultures, all right, And even there, it's becoming lost some, not as much as in non-Aboriginal and traditional, but this separation of the physical and the spiritual. You cannot separate them. You just cannot. That is such a fallacy. And, you know, on my own personal journey, that has become, you know, without going into all this long drawn out detail and all that stuff, in 2019, when I started making these huge changes in, you know, my life and my lifestyle and all of that, you can't separate them. That you just cannot. And to think that, oh, I can be spiritual and not really worry about the physical, it's not true, you know. Or I can be physical and not worry about the spiritual. It's not true. It's no more true one way than it is for the other. So we are going to be, okay, this is where I'm going to share this. This is a quote from Baba Ram Das. He says, the way to freedom lies through form, not in spite of form. This to me is the same way, him saying of what I say all the time, you cannot separate the physical from the spiritual. Most people, even in this belief system, really truly do not yet fully comprehend that the physical human form is actually one of the greatest tools of spirituality. It literally is a tool. Okay, here's what I'm hearing coming from my early years. Okay, in Christianity, the Bible says the body is a temple. It's saying the same thing. As you cannot separate the physical from the spiritual. And if you think that your physical condition, the condition of your physical form, does not affect you spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, that's another delusion. All right. I'm not saying that you can't be spiritual if you're not in good physical condition. And by the way, good physical condition, here's the other thing that I want to talk about very quickly. Good physical condition is individual. And for women, we almost immediately, at least subconsciously, because once again, it's cultural conditioning. If we say, oh, well, good physical condition, oh, it's Barbie doll. Perfect. That's another cultural conditioning illusion. Physical condition is individual. And it is determined by the individual and the individual's form, your tool, your physical sacred tool. Okay. The Navari, one of the etheric individuals I work with. All right. Anyway, she uses the term spiritual biological form. That's what we are. We're spiritual biological forms. That's what our body is. That is the human body, a spiritual biological form. And yes, just for those who are thinking, well, what about the animals? Isn't that a spiritual biological form? Yes, it is. What about the plants? Yes, it is. What about the rocks? Yes, it is. Spiritual biological form. Baba says the way to freedom lies through form, not in spite of it. We have made our body in so many ways our enemy, our spiritual enemy. Just as we have made our ego our spiritual enemy. I shared a meme just today out of a book that I recently purchased that I really like. It's 1001 Pearls of Yoga Wisdom. and forgive me if I don't pronounce this correctly, a healthy ego, Ahamkara, is the yogic term for the individual self. Yoga philosophy does not, as many people think, expect you to suppress this sense of self. Instead, you should nurture it. A solid ego means a strong sense of self-identity. Regard your ego for what it is, just one facet of your vast mind, of yourself. You cannot, this whole belief that, and what has been misunderstood, misinterpreted, all right, information within this spiritual belief system about the ego, you got to do away with the ego. No, what you have to do is you have to understand what the ego is and not allow the ego to rule. But the ego is necessary. You can no more do away with your ego and be whole than you can say cut off your left arm. Right now, I don't want that to be misinterpreted as in people who have lost limbs or something can't, you know what I'm saying. Let's not see, and that's it. Let's look at this. Let's look at this fact that I am even concerned with. Here I'm sharing information, okay? And in this belief system, we have become so divided, so petty. Petty is the word. Judgmental. It's got to stop, folks. It's dividing. You want to meld the spiritual with the physical? Stop judging. Live in integrity. Stand in honor. All of these things. Okay. This little note came through actually at just a few minutes before 6 p.m. this evening. Yes, go, Kabaha, go ahead. Unmute.
Before you carry on, do you mind if I read this beautiful message, because it's linked to, again, what you just mentioned?
Go right ahead.
Okay, you understand why?
Yes. Yes, go right
ahead. Okay. So what I'm going to do, if you are like me, I love the movie Avatar. And last week on Facebook, I saw a post, and the message from one line from the movie just blew me away. I mean, it's so beautiful that I'm going to share it with you. And what's encouraging, I shared the message from that lady called Geraldine Hamelin, and the response was very positive. I mean, in days like that, I have hope for the collective. And yes, anyway, so here's the message. It's absolutely beautiful. The line from the movie is, I see you. I see you is, without any doubt, one of the most beautiful and powerful phrases of the movie Avatar. I see you being deep inside you, where your soul dwells. I see you without judging you, without accusing you of welcoming everything. I see you without expecting anything from you, because my expectations and projections could damage you and mask your deep identity. I see you in all your dimensions and rich in all your experiences. I see you because I already know that you are a complete and perfect being. I see you, it's my way of welcoming you unconditionally. And that's how I allow you to see yourself and welcome you just the way you are. I see you. That's it. It's beautiful. Can you imagine being on this planet? Most people seeing others like that. would be absolutely amazing. Over to you, Essence.
It'd be a very different reality, you know, and don't want to sound negative by any stretch of the imagination. It's time to get real. It's time to be realistic. It's time to meld the spiritual with the physical. I'm trying to remember where, something I read recently. I don't remember. I may have shared it. So I'm just going to paraphrase it. We're talking about how, I think I remember where it came from. But for those of us who are in this belief system, and especially those of us who've been on it for a long time in this lifetime, we have seen so many changes. We've seen the beginning of this belief system. We have seen it morph, some in good ways, some in bad ways. I'll be perfectly honest. I guarantee you this pathway that most of us are dealing with now, and as this quote unquote new age spiritual belief system, is nothing like what it was when I stepped up on it 45 years ago. It's just not. And honestly, I'm being real, hardcore honest here. I'm being true to me. Most of what I see here is not good. And it's time to get past that. But what this person was sharing, what they said, and I do think I shared this, I'll have to find it. But to paraphrase, years ago, to start this journey, okay? Those of us on what was called the fringe, which would be this belief system, okay? We moved away from mainstream reality. We're like, no, your reality, I want nothing to do with it anymore. Okay, this was really, you can even see the 60s, the hippies of the 60s, all right, starting all of that. And it was a revolution in consciousness, all right? And it's like, no, we don't buy that war machine. We see reality in a different way. So we moved away and we started growing and learning, and it got a little warped and a little twisted and all of that. But and somehow along the way, this is a part of that, we've lost our connection with spirit. Somehow along the way, here we go. Star seeds. All right. We come here. Star seeds, those who call themselves star seeds and light workers, the awakened, right? Humans are children. This is how we need to see this. And somewhere along the way, we have made our children our enemy. We have turned on them. We have failed them. We have let them down. It's just the truth. Things have become ugly. We call them sheeple. We call them names. Really? We say they're the problem. When the fact is, this belief system, as an example, I'm going to get hardcore honest here for a minute. As an example, conspiracy theory was born in this belief system. It was born here. We did this. We have to step up and take responsibility. We turned on our children, the unawakened. Starseeds came here to help raise the frequency of this planet so that humanity could step into that higher frequency and consciousness could expand. And somewhere along the way, things got warped and twisted. We made them our enemy. So let it go. Don't judge. See the truth. See reality. But it's time to move on. And in that time to move on, it is now time, just like we're here to learn how to meld the spiritual with the physical, it is now time to meld, to bring the spiritual, us, this belief system, and the unawakened back together, because we're one. Guess what? We're one. We're not two. We are not two. We are one. They are not our enemy. They are our children. If you believe that you are a starseed and you believe that you are capable of what you say you are capable of doing, then let's do it. It's time we move back into understanding. This is where the message, now I know why this message came in at 5:52 p.m. my time. All right. And it says, with what I've just said there, okay, remember, no judging, no judging. Seeing the truth and being honest and realistic is not judging. It's being honest and realistic. It's being true to ourselves. If we continue on this path that we're on right now, we're not moving into any golden age, not for a very long time. But with that all stated, here's the message. The door to the past is closed, and the future is a new reality. But you, I must step through the door into the future of a new reality. Close that door. It's closed. We're moving forward one way or the other. We just have to decide how we're moving forward and where we're moving forward to. I'm looking at some notes here because we're going to start moving. Ariane's got some information that she's going to share here in just a little bit. I'll save that for later. I'll look at this. Okay, I do want to. Okay, I'm going to throw this out here, ladies. And then I'm going to ask you to bring forward what you hear. We've talked about this, but I want you to bring it right now. So this was a few days ago. I asked the Nagyan, which are the immortals. Nagyan is the Lemurian word for immortals. And just, I was pushed, prodded, whatever you want to call it, to ask them a question. What message would you speak to us at this time? Their answer was flat out, just matter of fact. Clarity of thought is vital. Ariane?
Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. Clarity of thought is vital. I have a really dodgy memory, like a really dodgy memory, and I work on it, but until I get an external trigger, I totally forget pretty much everything that we discuss. So I actually, in a lot of ways, lack clarity of thought, which is vital because it's really hard to function with a very dodgy memory. But what I do see, and that, so I actually can't recall what we talked about, but what I'm seeing right now is that we have got into this situation that we're in at the moment in this planet, in our current reality, because we're not clear on what we're thinking. We're not clear on where we want to go. We actually have nearly 8 billion different views of what this world should look like. We're not sitting in that experience of being one that Essence has just been talking about, and bringing our children. We are starseed. We are responsible for our children. We're not bringing them into the fold. We're separating. There's division. We see division in every which way we're looking. And I'm putting that down to we all have murky thoughts that we're not being really clear about, and about how we're expressing those thoughts and allowing open discussion about them. It's my way or the highway. You're wrong, I'm right, I'm wrong, you're right. It doesn't matter. It's we're just living in murk at the moment, and murk is where fear breeds. So I can actually see where the fear and the anger and the dissent and the distrust and everything else that's going on in this world is coming because we're not clear in our thoughts. So,
Yeah. Thank you. Go ahead, Ari, Kobaha, I'm sorry.
Well, two things. First, confirmation of what I mentioned early on. By being grounded, you'll have more clarity in your life as well. Okay. But the other thing that sprang to mind, and it's the truth, again, it's not, I'm going to judge, it's a matter of fact. What Oriane just mentioned, that there is a sense of confusion in the collective. We have different positions. We have sometimes tendency to blame others. And there is one example, because I know it's happening within my family. You can see sometimes patterns in a family for generations. And yes, it's easy to blame the ancestors. They haven't done the work. So why should I? And quite often we're in a position where we accept it, but we're still complaining about our lives because we are not, living a fulfilled life. But guess what? We have another choice, another option, is to say right now, it's going to stop with me right now. I don't want future generations to go through what the ancestors and myself went through. So free will again. Okay, it's about clarity in some ways, yes, but to blame on others or the ancestors for the sake of it, I'm sorry. There is another way. That's what I'm sensing right now.
Yeah, I agree. And I think what I'm getting here is going back to this, hang on, it's trying to fly out of the top of my head.
my dodgy memory is catching.
Apparently so. Man, it just flew out of the top of my head. Okay, clarity of thought is vital. It was talking about, what is that? Let's see here. Okay, it has to do with not judging. And let's see if I can bring it back. It has to do with not judging others. But this is what it was. It was, this to me goes back with listening to what both of you said. It also ties into directly to this. We've lost our connection to spirit. We've lost our connection to ourselves. We've lost our connection to who we truly are. We have, all of us to some degree or another, and this isn't, this just is, it's like, come on guys, it's time to take that really hard, clear look in the mirror. Because if we keep playing this game and this blame game and this, this is better and my way's better than your way and this, that, and another, if we keep doing that, we're just spinning our wheels in that muck and digging down deeper. There's no solid ground there to move forward on. No solid ground for the tires to grasp. Okay. We've got to let go of what belongs back here, and I'm hearing this, so I'm going to share it. Someone needs to hear this. Okay. There's this constant in this belief system. Oh, you've got to heal from this, and to heal from this, you've got to look at it, and you've got to do this, and you've got to relive it, and you've got to be miserable all over again, and you've got to do it 7 or 8 times, and then you get a little bit of ways, and then you got to do a little bit more, and then you got to be miserable some more, and you got to keep looking. There comes a point where healing has to become healed. That's become, this goes back to, I'm seeing this now, this kind of goes back to the early days that I started talking about kind of in the beginning of this, when the new thing was to be a healer. And like I said, even myself, in those younger days of mine, I gave into that pressure, because it's just like, if you weren't a healer, um, you weren't anybody. That's spiritual peer pressure. That, man, that has got to stop. That has got to stop. All right. And that's judgment. That's not allowing. That's saying, okay, only my way works. No. Okay. And you see this across the board. And I know I keep the information keeps coming back around. So I just, like I said, I got to be true to me. All right. And it is time we look at this belief system for what it really is, where it's really gotten. And that's, we're no worse than anybody else or any other faction of this collective, but also we're no better. And in all honesty, if we're who we say we are, if we can do what we say we can do, if we are these powerful energy workers, and we focus what we focus on, we say that all the time, you create your own reality, what you're focusing on. If that's what you're focusing on, what are you feeding? Clarity of thought is vital. It's what the immortals want us to know. We have to be clear in our thoughts within ourselves. We have to be clear in our energy, because our thoughts form the energy we sit within. And the energy coalescing together is what creates collective reality. Does this mean we have to be perfect? We're not going to be, because we're in human form. But what does it always say? The test of a true master is not that they never fall. It's how quickly they get back up, because you're going to fall. I fall almost every day. Usually the days I don't fall, I sleep a lot. All right. You're going to. It's a part of it. But get up. Don't wallow in it. Brush it off. Go on. Did you have something to say, Kabaha?
And walk.
And walk. Ah, there we go. Okay. The perfect intro. Okay, segue. All right. So we're going to segue into what Ariane's got to share here. So a few days ago, whatever it's been, I had a question come up, and for myself, I did the work. So, and the question was, and I want to ask you all, but here, let's start this way. Let's back up. Erase that off the board. All right. Erase that off the board. We're going to start this way. I want to ask you all right now a question, each and every one of you. And then I'm going to give you just a few seconds to have a little clarity of thought. And so that you get sort of an answer in your mind. It doesn't have to be anything, massive and huge. But here's the question. Why are we here? What brings us here? Why are we here? So a few seconds to answer that question for yourself. Why are you here? Okay, so I had that question posed to me through my crew, and I answered that question. It took me on the journey. So later on that day or the next day, whatever it was, I was talking to the other two Krones, because it was profound for me. It was profound. Okay, I looked, the answer came and I flowed, and just so that, don't leave anyone in suspense. For me personally, the answer was, why am I here? I'm here to teach. But so I'm asking the other two Krones, I'm going out walking, and I'm walking. I have my granddaughter with me. She's 4. She'll soon be 5. And they're very used to hearing us when we walk. So we go out, we start talking, and Rayanna and I are walking, and I tell the other Krones, okay, I got this question. Now I'm going to ask you, and I want each of you to think about it and tell me, why are we here? As soon as I got, what that isn't there a Bible verse, something about out of the mouths of babes? As soon as I asked them that question, of course, my grandbaby heard me. She said, to walk. We're here to walk. And I was like, we all were like, oh my God. That is so profound. Because that's the answer. Why are we here? We're here to walk. We're here to walk this journey. And this journey is spiritual. I'm hearing right now that I don't remember who said it first. It's been around years ago. I do remember the first time I remember reading it, which has been many years ago. It was profound to me then. And it still is if you really stop and think about it, because it has become pretty cliche. And that is, you're not a human on a spiritual path, or you're not a human being on a spiritual path. You are a spiritual being on a human path. We're here to walk. Uphill, downhill, around the curve, through the glen and over the dale. We're here to walk. It's really that simple. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier about really is simple, but we make it complicated. But in a lot of ways, it's our job to make it complicated. It's the complications that, as crazy as this may sound in this moment, bring us bliss. Granted, you may have to walk through a bit of hell to get to nirvana. Which reminds me of an old Ozark Mountain Daredevil song. If you want to get to heaven, you got to raise a little hell. Okay.
And that's why being human can be messy, but it's part of the process, right?
Exactly. So I hope everyone is seeing here, even though this may sound a little off in a lot of ways, a lot of things we've talked about. Do you see how you cannot separate the physical from the spiritual? And do you see how to meld the spiritual into the physical, you have to be physical? I mean, what's the first step? And this is where we're going to go next. In so many ways, the first step of melding the spiritual into the physical is to be your true physical human self. Let's go for a walk. We're going to walk through this lifetime. We're going to walk through this day. We're going to walk through this journey. We're going to walk across this planet. We're going to walk through the cosmos. We are here to walk. We are spirit. We are the universal consciousness. We are the universe experiencing itself in physicality, in this reality. How can that not be the most amazing thing? Don't forget who you are. Don't forget what you are. And don't forget what Baba said. Let me find it. I lost it here. He said, we're here. Oh, there it is. The way to freedom lies through form, not in spite of form. So you don't find nirvana in spite of this body. You find nirvana through this body, your body. And it's the most amazing spiritual tool you possess. It is a temple. It is a cosmos. Do you know that your body is a portal into other dimensions? Your body, your physical form is a portal. How can that not be spiritual? I'm hearing this is analogous to, in the same way that we have made our children our enemy as starseeds. Like I said earlier, we have made our body our enemy, our ego our enemy. And you cannot separate the physical from the spiritual. If you are not using the greatest tool that you have at your disposal, your physical human body in this reality system, to become all that you can be spiritually, you're missing the mark. And I'm hearing, this is so amazing to me, that after all of these years on this chat, so much of my early years in the Christian upbringing is coming forward. To miss the mark, is that not the definition of sin? Love yourself. How can you begin to truly love humanity, love your children? Starseed, how can you love humanity if you cannot love the form, the spiritual biological form that you have chosen, intentionally chosen to take on, to experience this reality with them in? If you can't love it, this is the connection to spirit. This, as crazy as that sounds, I know, in this belief system, your body is your greatest connection to spirit. With that said, now, Ariane, I'm going to let you go ahead, and I'm trying to decide. I'll be honest, I'm trying to decide because I know I promised everybody I would talk about the portal between the holly and the oak Cedar Tree. My bad. I got lost there. But so I'm trying to hear. Let me see. Let me go ahead and tell that, because I think what you're going to share, we need to kind of end with. No. They just said no. You go. Go ahead. Share that. Share what you got.
Okay.
My bad.
Thank you, Crew.
Sorry.
Okay. I have spent my entire life being devoted to the physical body. I was a classical ballet dancer from a very, very young age. I was an Olympic level athlete. I taught fitness internationally, trained a rugby team. I was ranked in the top 5% of fittest people in the world. The body was it. It was what I worshipped in many ways. And then through stress and illness, I found myself being told that a wheelchair was going to be my future. And that wasn't acceptable. And I spent a lot of years still working on the body, working to bring myself back to a health situation that I could find acceptable. And that has taken a lot of adjustments in my life. And my view now of what I think is my optimal health is way, way different to what it was in my younger days. You know, there's no way I'm ever going to be that athlete anymore. And we've been talking about bringing the spiritual into the physical, but the place that we have to start with that is the physical. And with my history, that's something that is really important to me. It's important to me on a personal level, and it's important to me because I see it in the collective. On the personal level, I am probably about as unfit as I have ever been, except when I was deep in my illness. And something needs to be done about that. I have to do some work about that. And Essence has gone through some stuff in her life. And she is a huge inspiration of how you can turn that round. And it is her experience and my experience and some experiences of Freddie's that brought us into a position where we thought we need to help the women that we know, the women who are drawn to us, to return to an optimum physical health. And so what we've done in the last couple of days is we have started another group. Yes, we have lots of groups, but this one is going to be a little bit different. And so I would like to welcome you to the opportunity to join us in the return to the Bodhi Tree, a return to optimal health. Okay. This is part of our spiritual work because you can't change that physical and spiritual. You can't separate them. They are so deeply interconnected. But it's for women who are striving to become the best that they can be in all levels, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, because we know we can't separate them. That's, you know, embedded in your wrist, tattooed on your arm. And because we cannot separate the physical from the spiritual, that is where we have to start in this growth process. We have to have a healthy body. It looks after, we have to have that physical form in good nick in order to support ourselves in all the other different bodies. So is this another diet group or fitness group? No, it's not. It's a group for women who are committed to achieving their optimal physical health, however it looks for them. 30 years ago, mine was vastly different to what it is now. It changes. We have to be realistic about what is our optimal physical health. And then we need to focus on making that a priority in our lives. Because if we are not in good physical health, we cannot delve deep to the depth of our spiritual world. We cannot be true to ourselves when we are not true to our physical self. So this is a community. The Return to the Bodhi Tree is a community, and it's a community where we can come together and we can share our up moments, our excitements, And we can hold each other up when we hit those points of despair or defeat that we all go through at times. There is a catch. To be a part of this group, you have to be willing to take a vow to yourself, to your higher self. A vow to make the well-being of your physical self a priority. Now, this takes commitment and determination. And I've gone through the mill a couple of times now where I've needed to find those in bucket loads. So I really understand this. And you must understand that if you're taking a vow to self in this way, you must not take it lightly. It is not something to give away frivolously. The energy of vows such as we're asking people to make to their self will come back and bite you in the butt if you don't honor it. If you don't keep your word when you have given it in such a vow, it creates an energy that will manifest situations in your life that can be uncomfortable, because it will try to push you into honoring your vow and to standing in the integrity of your word. So if you're serious about your pathway, about taking this walk, this vow is a natural process. And in this group, we're going to be there to help each other. And by doing that, we will help each other too, who will help ourselves. We'll all get out as much out of this group as we put into it. Okay, it's another Facebook group, and we all know that Facebook can be a bit wobbly at the moment. But in this group, we will carve ourselves a little niche under the shade of the Bodhi Tree, where Buddha went for enlightenment and knowledge. And we can sit there and share our frustrations and celebrate our joys and our achievements. And in this group, you're invited to share everything that is inspiring. And it could be your achievements that inspire all of us. Now, I've come across groups in the past because the body has been a major focus in my life. I've come across groups where you try to celebrate some of those little wins, little wins, not the I've just lost 50 pounds, but that I've lost half a pound and it's been a struggle. And you just get this bitchiness back, come back, tell us when it's 50 pounds. You get accused of bragging. If it's something bigger, people can display jealousy. That will not happen. We have zero tolerance in our groups for things like that. That will not happen. This is where you can feel free to share your accomplishments, however great, however small, because we need to be proud of our achievements. And in a true community, the achievement of one individual is an achievement for all of us. So we want to know when your blood pressure drops a few points, if your optimal health is something to do with that. We want to know when you lose a few pounds, or when you can walk a few more meters or swim an extra lap. We need to take ownership of the work we do, and we can yell it from the rooftops. Yes, I did it. It's wonderful news. And we all want to hear it, and we all want to cheer right along there with you. It's a support system for each other. We can share healthy recipes, tips on what's working for us. We're not going to tell you what to do to achieve your optimum health. That is between you and your vow to yourself. But we can share on what works: diet, exercise, shifts in our perception, anything that helps us back to a journey to full health. Okay, the right energy has to be here on this group, because we are all one. That is right at the front. We are all one. And where one person succeeds, we all succeed. So we're going to be releasing this group, Return to the Bodhi Tree. And if you feel that you are a priority in your life, your physical aspect, which aids and supports and nurtures and encourages your mental and emotional and spiritual bodies. if you feel it, you can take such a vow to be true to you, to place yourself as a priority in your current life. We'd love to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ariane. We're excited about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're excited about this. And I hope that, y'all will join us. Tell your friends. This will be a women's only group. I just want to, Ariane shared exactly what we have in mind. Okay. But I just want to elaborate on a couple of things here. It will be a women's only group, simply, well, for obvious reasons. It just feels safer for women. Okay. And we get that. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
And what I do want to say is if men approach us and say, hey, why can't we be a member of this? Then what we will do is say, because we need that security for the women, the safe place. And hey, guys, if you want to do this, go right ahead. We will support you.
Right. Make your own group.
Make your own group.
Yeah, well, and I mean that in the sense of, the kindest way possible, but because this is what this is going to be. I also want it understood that this is not only for women who feel like they're already not in optimal health. This is a community. Okay. And it is the physical part of this is just one aspect. Granted, it's the big focus, because just like what we've talked about through this whole chat this evening, you cannot separate the physical from the spiritual. Okay. Just because you don't need to lose a few pounds, or your blood pressure's fine, or you don't have this, or you don't have that, doesn't mean that you cannot benefit from this and that you cannot be a benefit to this community. This is community, true community. So I want that to be understood. Okay. We'll share a link on the IKoK page and all of our pages and everything. Once again, join only if and after you have truly contemplated whether or not this is something you want to vow to take on to yourself. Because I mean this in all sincerity and not as anything bad, but I promise you, if you take a vow, okay, which is a conscious and intentional decision, okay, to commit to something like this, that is a vow. And if you do and you don't honor it, it will create uncomfortable situations, because that energy, just like Ariane said, will push you. Okay. And it will push you by manifesting uncomfortable situations to say, hey, you gave your word here. Remember, this is about that integrity. This is a part of that melding the spiritual with the physical. Okay. It's not a we're going to come after you or say bad things or anything else. This is your own doing. Remember, this is a vow not to us. This is a vow to yourself and to your higher self. Okay. So make sure that you understand that and make sure that you do that in all clarity. Okay. I'm going to quickly explain the portal between the cedar and the holly and the cedar tree, what that is. Okay. As many of you know, those of you, some of you are new here, but as many of you know, follow my work, what I do, what I do. Well, you know that within the last, this year, basically, you could say, I have taken on becoming certified in Tai Chi, Qigong, and traditional Chinese medicine. And I've been studying Taoism, which is a part of, they're all one thing, bottom line. They're all one thing. I do have my, just for the record, and so that those of you who've been waiting and wanting to, I am now certified in Tai Chi. I have some to go before my certification in Qigong and the TCM. So I will be beginning doing online Tai Chi classes very soon. You can watch for that. But okay, with that stated. So I had, okay, 16 to 61. Let me see where to kind of start here. I'll try to spit this out as fast as possible. In this lifetime, I stepped upon this path basically at the age of 16. Well, this year on September 1st, I turned 61. Well, a few weeks before my birthday, probably a couple of months-ish, I'm going to say, I was shown, and it became obvious to me. Of course, y'all know numbers, they're my thing. It's what I do, the frequencies and all of that. And I saw the 16 and the 61, and I went, okay, this is significant. As we can see, that's a mirror image. All right. Well, knowing that, and of course I did some calculations and this, that, and other, and got some basic information, and I had information from my guides and all of this kind of stuff. But there was still this, okay, what's this? What's it going to be about? Okay. A lot of you know that I've recently started working with the Nagyan, the immortals. Another experience that I recently had was a visit from the Dakini. And I haven't really talked about that. I'll talk about that at a later time, but it was just let it be known, just let me say that it was a very major experience. And so this was actually on the 13th of this month. So a week or so ago, whatever it is, I was out walking and I was listening to a recording of a lecture from Baba Ram Dass. Well, Baba Ram Dass is related to the 60-61 thing. When I first started on this path at 16, the very first book I read, so you could say that started me on this path, and therefore my very first teacher, we'll say, on this path, was Baba Ram Dass, because it was his book, Remember, Be Here Now, a classic, a true New Age classic. If you haven't read it, I highly suggest it. As a matter of fact, I need to reread it. It's been a lot of years. So for whatever reason, and I truly can't tell you, I can't give you a pinpoint as to when or why I was drawn back. But I do know it was all related to the things that I've just mentioned, the Nagyan, the Dakini, all of the work that I do, the Tai Chi, the Qigong, the yoga, all of it. It's all related. It's all woven together in one big bundle. So I was walking that day, and I was listening to this lecture from Baba Ram Dass. So I'm just going to read my notes here that I came in, okay? Because that'll be the fastest way to get through this, to explain that. So I'm reading my notes. I had been walking and listening. Let's back up. Baba Ram Dass appeared to me as I walked and stopped and stood between the holly and the cedar trees in my driveway. I had been walking and listening to his lecture entitled The Advanced Course. Oh, I have to say, I love that. It's a great lecture. As I walked down the driveway towards the house, I spotted a fleeting, beautiful, iridescent blue flash in what we call the circle. It's actually the yard behind my shop. It was very fast, and I noticed it. And in that same split second of seeing, because it was like, how you just almost like when the sun hits something, but this was definitely this was energetic. There was no doubt. Okay. I noticed it, and in a split second, I had an energetic heart, intuitive recognition that Baba Ram Dass had just appeared to me. Now, I don't, for those of you who aren't familiar with Baba Ram Dass, he passed away a couple of years ago, I want to say, at the very most. It hasn't been that long. I said, it was so clear and so profound, it stopped me dead in my tracks. And I actually said, I actually said out loud, I went, Baba Ram Dass. I mean, I was just like shocked, totally shocked. So I stood there basking in his energy. And it was an experience of Yujin. And interestingly enough, just the day before, I had been talking to the other two Krones on a walk, and the topic of Yujin had come up, which is, to state it very simply, Yujin is that experience of just overwhelming joyful bliss that we all have had experiences of, it's a very profoundly spiritual experience. Yujin is, okay. As I stood still, allowing myself to bask in Baba Ram Dass's energy, I felt my heart chakra expand until I existed almost entirely as nothing more than that same blue iridescent light that I had just seen him flash. And I felt healing and rebalancing coming into me through my heart chakra center. And so to try to explain that a little better, I said it was as if my heart chakra center in my body became a portal into universal infinity. It literally just started as like, you know, the images, like if you Google universe and just those starry, images, and it literally just my heart chakra there, and it just did this until everything melted away. And I just became this portal. And so for those of you who don't know, in February 2nd of 2021 of this year, I had a heart attack. Made me really mad too, by the way, but we won't go there right now. And I had a couple of stents put in, and, so I've been, I'm good now, blah, blah, blah. But that is where this next part's coming in. So that happened in February of this year. So I asked Baba, I said, "Are you healing my heart?" And his answer was, "There is nothing, no thing to heal." Then I said, "Your heart attack," he said, "your heart attack was a physical manifestation of your heart chakra, your energy heart chakra being cracked open as you were told would happen." Okay, to make that understandable, about, I want to say 3 or 4 weeks before I had a heart attack, which there was no signs that I should have a heart attack. As a matter of fact, I was in the best health I've been in since I was 20 years old. Okay. This heart attack came totally out of the blue, but about, I'm going to say 3 or 4 weeks, I want to say, my guides told me just matter of factly one day, just out of the blue, just point blank, "We're going to crack you open." I'm like going through my day and I hear that, and that's it. And it was like this booming thing, it was strong and powerful. And I'm thinking, I immediately go, okay, well, we know this is heart chakra related. There's no way around that. But I had no idea they meant a physical heart attack. I'll be honest, that was a surprise. Okay. But he also said that if that experience, so the physical heart attack, that cracking open. Now, I'm not saying that that's the way it would happen for everyone. This is my personal, remember, this is my walk. This is my walk in the return to the Bodhi Tree. If that experience had not occurred, you would not have been able to receive this gift. I would not have been able to appear to you, and you would not have recognized me, for you would not have begun your path to Qigong and the study of the Tao. So that was what happened. Now, I did not realize, I had this experience standing in my driveway, and in that moment, I became a student of Baba once again. Because remember, 16 and 61, Baba, and I did not even think about this because I always loved Baba Ram Dass. but I never really followed him in, in these 45 years between 16 and 61. He would come and go in my life, like I would read this book or I would buy that, but I wasn't like a devout student, let's just say, of Baba. But he was the one who started me on this path at 16 with that book. That book changed me forever and started me on this path. And then in that mirror image, 45 years later, at 61 years old, Baba appears to me standing in my driveway and invited me back, let's say it that way, to become a student of his now again. And all of these new things that I'm taking on, all of these new studies, right, are a part of me becoming a student of Baba again in this fashion. Now, so as I'm standing there experiencing this, understanding this, and saying, yes, I accept the invitation to become your student. And as I'm coming back into my body, because like I said, my body just disappeared. It became this portal into infinity, into universal infinity. So as I'm coming back into my body, I look literally, because I did not move a step. I couldn't move yet other than my head. And I turn and I look to my left. There's a holly tree. And I turn and I look to my right. And there's a cedar tree. And in that moment, there was that click of, oh my God, this is the portal. I am the portal. The portal is here. The portal is what I'm hearing right now. The portal is where you stand. This is that. Your body is your greatest, your spiritual biological form is your greatest tool to your spiritual growth and consciousness expansion. But when I turned and I looked to where I was standing, because I've got a very long driveway, it's about, it's over an acre long. Okay. So I could have stopped anywhere along the way and this happened, but it happened right there. And as we know, you pay attention to the signs. So here's a holly tree and a cedar tree. And I knew immediately it was significant. All right. That I was standing at that exact point, exactly between those two trees. And here's where you cannot separate the physical from the spiritual. So I come in and of course I've been dealing with herbs and essential oils and things like that. So I had in that moment, I would say general understanding of the significance of both energetically and medicinally of holly and cedar. But I came in and I did some more research. This is where you cannot separate the physical from the spiritual. This is what we're talking about. Okay. So just as an example, holly, energetically, it symbolizes peace and goodwill. Now think about, overlay this on what's going on with the collective right now. Okay. Because it's not just about me. This is not just about my journey. Yes, this is my personal journey and I'm sharing a part of that with you, but I'm a part of the collective. This is what we're talking about. My experiences may become your inspiration and your experiences may become my inspiration. And that's how community works. That's what this Return to the Bodhi Tree group is about. It's not just about losing a few pounds. All right. It needs to be understood. It's way more than that. So holly symbolizes peace and goodwill. It's also a symbol of fertility and eternal life. It's a symbol of the fertility of consciousness. Okay. Physically, okay, because you can't separate the physical from the spiritual. Okay, now remember, this information would not have come forward if I had not have had that experience, but this is the very physical stuff of it. The holly medicinally alleviates measles, colds, flu, and pneumonia. What are we dealing with as a global society right now? A respiratory pandemic. We can't breathe. Our collective, just like Kabaha was talking about the root chakra being blocked for the collective, collectively, we can't breathe. We can't inhale the sweet energy of spirit. We're dying. We're suffocating. As a collective, energetically, we are suffocating. Externally, it also is used for sores and itching, right? Native American Indians use the holly fruit as a tea, as a heart stimulant to get our heart beating again, our collective heart beating again. Energetically, it's used as a ceremonial cleanser. It's traditionally used, now physically, okay, in the physical again, traditionally used for cough, fever, digestive disorders, heart disease, and more, including high blood pressure, because it facilitates better arterial function. And it's used to combat emotional problems. I want it understood here that I am by no stretch of the imagination telling anyone to go out and harvest and use holly and or cedar. Okay. If you don't know what you're doing, do not ingest it. All right. If you're going to do that, you need to go to someone qualified. Okay. But you can use it energetically, even if you do nothing more than find a holly tree or a holly bush and a cedar tree and stand in touch and commune with them. It can start there and be that simple. Speak to them. They are our family. We are one. All right. Cedar, that's the holly. The cedar is used for healing, purification, spiritual protection. It promotes peaceful thoughts and helps interpret messages from the inner self, your spirit guides, and other forms of consciousness. It symbolizes strength and eternity. Do you see that both these trees, the holly and the cedar, are both connected to eternity? Physically, cedar promotes immune function. What's the biggest issue with global society, with people right now? Compromised immune systems. So physically, it promotes immune function through helping white blood cells work better. This is cedar. It stimulates the immune system to better fight infection. It cleans up debris and denatures cancer cells. Doing several cedar steams a day. So this is like when you would, use it to like an essential oil or even the wood and stuff. Once again, know what you're doing. All right. But you would steam it. You know how like you put a towel over your head if you're using like a steam inhalation to clear the sinuses and the respiratory. Okay. So doing several cedar steams a day can help to clear respiratory infections. A global pandemic of a respiratory infection. Remember, You burn cedar to purify a space. It removes negative energies and attracts positive energies. Cedar is favored by the thunder beings. Because of this, it aids in dealing and rebalancing a mind affected by depression, confusion, and overwhelm. All of that root chakra stuff. Collective work. Cedar trees are long-lived and have a maximum lifespan of over 1,000 years. So do you understand that the portal, okay, this is the 16 and the 61, the portal between the holly and the cedar is a experience of melding the spiritual with the physical. It was a spiritual experience that brought information about physical medicines meaning energetically and physically, that literally can help the collective right now. Okay, I want to say this. This experience that I'm sharing with you is my personal experience, and it by no stretch of the imagination says that I'm special or that I'm doing anything that anyone else cannot or does not do. I'm simply sharing my walk, a part of my walk, as an inspiration, as a way of understanding. And in the group, Return to the Bodhi Tree, we will share more information there and knowledge. And a lot of you who know me already know I'm a very private person. Okay. I have shared more about myself personally in these chats in the last year. I still go, who is doing all that talking? It's, but this is what we are capable of as a collective. And we do this together. So why did we come here? In the words of the very smart and profound Rayanna, to walk. But we came here to walk together. And if we're not walking together, we're missing the mark. I think we're going to call this chat completed. I want to take this time to ask the other two Krones if there's anything else they would like to share. And if not, to at least say good night.
That was an amazing chat. So much. I mean, it's interesting. I was feeling the energy, very different to the other chats, obviously, but that sense of community, I felt it very strong tonight. Beautiful.
Right. Yeah.
The start of something beautiful. Well, thank you for joining us. I had a real amazing time.
You're so right, Kobaha, the energy of this chat, which was a lot more free-flowing than we normally do. We normally plan these things out almost to the nth degree, and this was pretty much an idea of where we were going and what we wanted to include, but allowing it to flow as directed by spirit and need. And I am deeply honored to be a part of the IKoK, to be one of the Krones, and able to be of assistance to the collective in whatever way I can be. And as an aspect of that assistance, I am really looking forward to this group of Return to the Bodhi Tree. We can all assist each other. We all have skills, we all have knowledge, we all have abilities, and it's going to be a wonderful, supportive community. And I want to say thank you and farewell till next time.
All right. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. I want to go ahead and remind everyone that's here with us live that we do an after chat, what we call an after chat, and you're more than welcome to stay and share with us what you got from this, what you have to share with us. Like I said, we're a community. When we started the IKoK, they're called chats for a reason. Okay. Everybody else seems to be a little bit shy, so it ends up being us chatting. But that's okay. We chat afterwards. In the return to the Bodhi Tree, we hope to chat much more. Those won't be recorded and put on YouTube. Maybe everyone will be a little more. But thank you so much for joining us. It is our honor and privilege to share. It's what we're called to do. Everyone has their part to play, and we're just trying to play our part. As always, let me find my paperwork here. We are going to end these chats on the note of silence. And I'm going to ask everyone to just take a moment to center yourself. I want you to quiet yourself and feel the energies of what has been shared here, what has been brought together, not just by the words that we have shared, but by the very coming together of all of us in this time and space, in this moment. I want to share something that I wrote after, this is a part of my Qigong studies. There's a particular type of meditation called Zhuang. And this came forward after coming out of that type of meditation. I've actually titled it The Heart of Zhuang. Please simply allow the energy of this sharing to speak to you as necessary for you. To dare to dream, to fly with the Nagyan upon the back of celestial dragons. To wish to know and understand the universal mind. To hope to hold within my heart that which moves the cosmos, setting it into motion for eternity. This is the desire of my soul, the song of myself. Kara unche anapau Nagyan. I am the ancient future transitioning immortal. Kara unche anapau Nagyan. Kara unche Nagyan Jonehe Gahuakai Ani. I am the ancient future immortal, birthing the genesis of sacred lands. Kara unche Janaha I Gaihua Ka'ai Ani. Kara Unche Prana. I am the ancient future breath of life. Kara Unche Prana. Kara Unche Prana. Kara Unche Prana.